Well, Fortnite OG dropped, and it's about what I expected.
Picking people up wasn't a thing.
Okay, I'm getting like,
Whoa!
I don't know how I know that, but I do.
Doing real good.
Oh my! There's
Oh, angle.
Luke, we gotta run.
Yeah, up and double
We're
it,
jumping
up and
around the
double it,
tree.
yeah.
Oh,
Never mind, never mind.
How did we get stuck? Why did we get stuck in the middle?
Oh my god, bro. Let me make this clear. Fortnite OG is fun. There are so many good things that this mode does. My goal is not to crap on Fortnite OG, but as we progress through this video, you're going to start to understand how conflicted I am by returning to this older version of Fortnite. There are two major flaws with going back to this time in Fortnite's history and trying to make it as accurate as possible, but I will get to that later on. Now, last week we talked at length about what it was like to experience that original era of Fortnite. This mode is undoubtedly a love letter to the original players and the experience that it was at that time. They did so well in recreating this era. As a matter of fact, too well, but we will get into that shortly. First off, I have to commend them on the sound design. It's spot on, from the ambience to picking up weapons to the way that weapons sound to the OG traps. Speaking of traps, have I ever told you how I love traps and how they should always exist inside of Fortnite? Making trap slots useful again is a breath of fresh air in the BR experience. I know that in Chapter 5, we brought them back for one season, and we only got one of them, which was the armored walls, but having a variety of traps is so nice to have in the loot pool. For example, even though the OG directional bounce pad is insanely goofy and almost useless, it is still OG, and it's fun to use. Honestly, I can't wait for the improved bounce pads to come back, as well as the launch pads to return. I honestly think that's when this game mode will really take off. Electric traps are novel to have back. I bet most players didn't even know these were a thing until they saw them in game last week. They're insanely difficult to incorporate into your gameplay, but are well worth it if you can figure it out. I've actually died to them a couple of times by really smart players. One item I forgot about were the OG spike traps. Imagine my shock when I realized I couldn't place them on a wall or a ceiling, but only on the floor. Talk about a rush of nostalgia. As goofy as some of these items are, they're still fun to use, and I wish Fortnite would update them for the modern BR experience. Definitely a topic I've been procrastinating on making, and one that we need to have in a future video. But listen, all the traps and the sounds aside, I think it's commendable how much effort was put into this mode to make it feel like the OG experience. The thing that was surprisingly the most accurate was how intense the game felt again. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, I've been getting my butt kicked in OG Fortnite. If you were on stream last Monday, you saw it firsthand. Time after time, I'm getting clapped by real players, and this is post bot nerf. However, in spite of the bots being brought in, games still feel intense. I had a few top 10 situations where I definitely choked due to bad positioning or underestimating my opponent, but for the first time in a long time, my solo matches actually felt like they mattered. Now, when it comes to squads, it's a completely different experience. I'm gonna be totally honest with you guys, I am not a fan. More often than not, I find myself not able to find proper weapons, heals, or ammo even after the buff to 100% chest spawns. And this is where I start to have my issues with OG Fortnite coming back. I want to make this clear, I was one of the few people that didn't ask for a permanent OG mode, even when people were talking about this during Season OG last year. In many ways, I was against it, not because I hate this era of Fortnite or because I don't want people to experience it, but because it's intrinsically flawed and it always has been. Not to mention, what people don't understand is that you could never truly bring back OG Fortnite. That second point is one that I made in my previous OG Fortnite video, and I feel like it gets glossed over by the community quite a bit. It doesn't matter how many old POIs you bring back, how accurate you make the damage, you can bring back the old movement and even remove turbo building. However, nothing you can do will ever make the player base as bad as it was back in the day. Something that I don't think is talked about enough in the gaming space in general is Fortnite's impact on gaming as a whole. It wasn't just live events or battle passes, but how players approached video games. Before Fortnite existed, we had good players, but most people weren't going online looking at gameplay videos all day and watching streamers. If you were good at the game, it's because you played for a ridiculous amount of time. Now, I would say post 2018, that's when people started getting really sweaty, not just at Fortnite, but at gaming in general. You have to think, streaming was booming, people's views on YouTube were going crazy, and everyone wanted to become like their favorite streamer. Fortnite, in many ways, was the gateway game that made sweat culture explode. So now as a result, Call of Duty, Apex, Halo, any shooter that you can think of is going to be naturally more competitive because everyone has 24/7 access to some of the best gamers in the world, showing people in real time how to be better at their favorite game. Now let's fast forward the clock back to modern day OG Fortnite. Did you honestly think that when old players came back to the game, it was going to be easier? Even if you're an old player that's trash now, give yourself a couple of consistent weeks on the game. Not only will you get your rhythm back, but you'll still be better than you were at the game when it first came out 7 years ago. Gamers will never be as trash as they were back in 2017 Fortnite Chapter 1. But why is this a problem for OG Fortnite? It's because the version of the game we're playing now is not designed for a modern player base. It was designed for objectively worse players. It was okay to have less ammo around the island when people were afraid to push fights and conserved everything. Now you have players W-keying lobbies trying to get the max amount of kills. It was more bearable to deal with weapons that had insane damage when people didn't have a way to fine-tune their sensitivity. You're talking about an era where building and weapon sensitivity were the exact same. You also didn't need as many heals for this same reason. Everyone just sucked at aiming, so you had a way higher chance of surviving gunfights. For many players like me who are more aggressive with their playstyle, who have evolved with the nature of the game over time, playing in the OG setting can be frustrating. Think about it like this. What did you think was going to happen when you combined overpowered weapons, a lack of healing items, limited ammo, and give that to a player base with 7 years of experience? You create a scenario where even some of the best players will have difficulty winning because the conditions in many ways are impossible. There were times when I had absolutely no ammo to assist my teammates in long-range fights, so I either have to push enemies like a madman or wait for them to push me and hope that I can 50-50 a fight on 45 HP just because I can't find so much as band-aids. Also, if you like to land hot, that's an even bigger risk because of the limited loot and ammo spawns on some of these old locations. Even if you win your first couple of fights, by the third or fourth third party, you'll likely run out of ammo. Now, I think the solution that many people would bring up to compensate for this is to make the game feel even more OG, that Epic should have removed turbo building and sprinting, mantling, sliding, just straight up OG mechanics across the board. And this mindset is where I start to really have an issue. This ultra fixation on wanting things to be as OG as possible while ignoring the biggest element that cannot be OG, which is the player base. The other problem I have with this issue is that it exposes the second biggest problem with modern OG Fortnite. Ironically, the experience that you're fighting to have is one that the original OGs fought to evolve from. What most people don't understand is that original Fortnite was an experiment. It wasn't designed to be a complete game. Donald Mustard and his team put it together in 2 weeks from assets taken from Save the World. There were flaws with the game when we played it back in that day that we wanted changed. Many of the OG players at that time weren't fans of some of the mechanics and features. One example I specifically remember is shields. Back in Chapter 1 Season 1, there were content creators that were saying there weren't enough shields or even shield types in general on the map. I remember content creators recommending a healing item that would eventually become the concept for minis. Even when Slurp Juice was introduced, it was met with criticism because of the way it worked. It was insanely rigid. It could only repair 25 health and 25 shield. If you were maxed on health, that extra 25 HP didn't go to your shield. Also, don't try to stack the use of slurps to get double the effect or heal faster. If you drink 2 slurps back to back, they have the same level of effectiveness as just drinking one of them. You had to wait until one was finished before you started the other. What I'm getting at is that the version of Fortnite that many are currently asking for is broken. And even when the player base was bad, we knew it was broken. Revisiting this playstyle 7 years later with an even better player base makes the flaws even more apparent because the player base has evolved way past this. This is the equivalent of pulling out an old controller that you had as a kid that was always broken, but you figured out how to use. Can you have fun by using that old controller to play some old games while finessing the controls to get the outcome you want? Sure, you can do that and you'll probably be on a nostalgia trip for a little while, laughing about how you used to have to hold the cord a certain way to make sure it registered on the console, or how the A button sticks so you have to press it down twice as hard. But after a couple hours of doing this, you're going to say, screw this, and pick up the new wireless controller that you bought because it's more practical to use. And just like picking up the new wireless controller to use for your old games is the same approach I've always had when it comes to wanting to bring OG Fortnite back. If I'm going to return to an old era of Fortnite, personally, I don't prefer it to be one that's broken, especially considering we can't make the player base as bad as it was then. If the player base can't go back to being that bad, I can never truly get the OG experience, and this is a hard truth for a lot of people to swallow. The only way you can truly experience OG Fortnite is if you lived at that time and played it when the game was new. Removing turbo building and all the new mechanics won't make it OG. It'll just feel clunky and restrictive, and over time, most players will want to go play something else. In many ways, I think that Epic's approach to OG was one of the best that they could have done in spite of all the flaws. Because we can't make the player base as bad as they used to be, the OG mode needs to reflect quality of life changes that support a modern audience. You want to keep changes like the new movement for a more advanced player base while also bringing back some of the most iconic elements and gameplay patterns from this time. For example, if they want to keep weapons broken with the higher damage, I'm all for that. But I also think there needs to be a higher spawn rate for shields and ammo. The weapons can still be broken and still make me cautious about pushing fights, while also make me feel like I have a fair chance when I land. Now, to be fair, many will say that's what makes OG so special and intense. It's that it has limited heals and ammo. And to be fair, I agree. In spite of me not being the biggest fan of this element of OG Fortnite, it can still be fun because it's far more challenging than normal BR. Fights are far more risky to engage with, which means players might not land as hot or third party as often. Players have to be more strategic with their position in fights, and I love that. However, if you are the one getting third party, sometimes it's tough to deal with beating 2 or 3 players in a row, and then when the 4th one comes along, you're dead instantly because none of the other 3 people you killed have heals. When this happens, the game starts to feel more luck-based than skill. It doesn't matter how good I am. If I have low HP and low ammo, even the worst player can kill me in a third party. However, regardless of the flaws, I'm happy that OG Fortnite exists as a mode. This season will only be around for a couple of months, so I might as well enjoy it for what it is while it's here. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't looking forward to later versions of the game more. One unexpected benefit of playing OG Fortnite again is that it's made me appreciate modern Fortnite a lot more. Switching from OG to Chapter 6 really shows how far this game has come. It also has me thinking about what makes Chapter 6 so special as compared to Chapter 5. What is Chapter 6 doing that has us all so excited? Maybe that's something we should cover in the next video, or if you've got something more interesting that you think I should cover, leave a comment down below and let me know. Until then, instead of subscribing to the channel, why don't you just check out another video first, just to make sure you're enjoying the vibes around here. I got 3 years worth of content that you need to catch up on. Love y'all. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.